Okay, so in this video we will be covering the second chapter, that is Muddied Crystal, from my book Activating the Non-Dual Codex. Here the crystal is of course the intelligence, and I say of course because we all know that crystal has the property to, you can send a light and it clearly splits the light into its integral parts as it is, and revealing the nature or the composition of light. So, in the same sense, a crystal in its natural form has the unique ability to refract light, revealing its core components and the hidden patterns. So, this is more than a physical property here. So it is rather a symbol of clarity and unbiased observation. But if the crystal is discovered and it is covered in mud and it is filled with impurities, its potential is blocked. It may appear promising, but it cannot serve its true function until it is cleansed or cleaned. Right? So, in the same way, the intellect, which is the crystal of a human, is meant to reflect clarity in our inner exploration. It is part of consciousness that can examine experience with honesty and openness. When clear, it does not distort, assume, or defend the input a mind is receiving. It simply sees the input as it is. But for most people, the intellect is muddied by the memories, your beliefs, and also the emotional baggage which we carry from our past. So rather than revealing truth, it reinforces what is already assumed. So, based on our past experiences, there is an identity which is formed, and it's like a filter, or in this case, a layer of mud on the crystal which is formed, and we do not see this mud at all because it is so close to us. It is always active. Anything we perceive is through this filter of past memories and the defense which we have formed over time that protects that identity. So, this chapter invites the reader to notice this distortion and to begin a process of inner cleansing, not by collecting more ideas but by learning to observe directly without the filters. So often we think we have cleared this inner crystal when we have only replaced this obvious confusion with something even more subtle. So it's basically someone who is in the path of self-realization. We have the ability, to recognize this ego, and we work on it, and we get rid of this ego by simply looking at the nature of it. That is, it is simply a collection of emotions, memories. Some are quite deep. If it had suffering or pain attached to it, the memory, it is more deep. So once we get rid of this, once we clearly see the nature of memory, there is something else. The mind creates another form of subtle ego which is built to defend the ignorance of separation. Instead of dirt, we adopt polished beliefs or spiritual identities that still distort our view. They feel right, but they are built on the same misunderstanding about what it means to be human. So these ideas, it seems refined, but still they prevent the honest seeing, which is quite obvious. As I say, it is always present, the honest seeing of what is it that in this moment we are completely missing. And sometimes it is simple common sense that breaks through this illusion. Clear observation without any agenda reveals that real insight does not come from swapping one belief for another. It comes from seeing what is just as it is. The true clarity, it does not arise from the effort of perfect thought, but from the willingness to meet experience without defense, without resisting the perception. You simply witness it, and that is how the clarity arises. And I keep repeating this over and over again. Once an individual sees this is the highest truth. Whatever it is that you're seeking, the peace, happiness, God, and the reality which you're trying to understand through relationships, through different mode of happiness and satisfactions you have adopted in your life. So all of this, while it is great to experience them, it's vitally important that you see without this it is possible to be in the state of pure being, which is absolute bliss. That is the clarity, it is the existential clarity, not the clarity of a concept or your life story, your future. That is not the clarity I'm referring to. So in this moment, there is an existential clarity which arises by simply being and present without resisting from this moment. You're not trying to defend anything, rather you're just trying to simply be. At least for some time, I understand the story is not so straightforward these days. You have a lot of things you want to defend, to protect a person, a nation, society, egos. I don't know what you're defending, but this does not demand, if you want to see the independent truth, it does not demand one to be biased. You just simply be honest enough to seek the truth in this moment, and it is available. So the more we allow the intellect to rest in stillness and observe without grasping, the more it regains its natural brilliance. The crystal does not need to become something new. It only needs to be revealed. Similarly, the mind does not need more knowledge to find the truth. It only needs less of the interference which is caused by the filter, the mud on the crystal. So, I'm not sure if this image is clearly visible, but a crystal with mud, the mud is synonymous to you say you already know the truth. The spiritual identity which you have assumed, the most destructive and the subtle form of identity is spiritual identity, and it creates more problem than any other form of egos. And you have an idea of the idea itself. The idea itself is a blockage. And of course, the past experiences, which is the conditioning, the traumas which you carry from your childhood, and also it's a transfer from generations. It does happen. So we make use of this brush. It is the common sense. We, by simply just employing our common sense and by being present, you can get rid of this mud, and the brilliance which is inherent in the crystal will automatically shine. So anything that comes your way, it goes through this crystal, which is absolutely clean on the surface, and you see things as it is. Now, experiencing without meaning. In our day-to-day lives, meaning making is second to our nature. The brain is wired to categorize, label, define, and now this is a brilliant evolutionary design for survival, but it is a noisy filter which is when it comes to raw experience. So it definitely hinders one to experience the perceptions in its most raw form. In trying to make a meaning of every experience you're having, it dilutes the quality, and more so, just not diluting, sometimes it misinterprets the perception itself. So the neuroscience reveals how the prefrontal cortex, responsible for higher cognition, constantly overlays interpretation of our sensory input. Yet within this cognitive brilliance lies a quieter intelligence, the ability to experience phenomena without immediate translation. Spiritual traditions, especially those of non-dual insight, have always pointed toward this direct mode of knowing. It is not about rejecting intellect but about recognizing when to rest it, not as a failure of understanding but a return to the simplicity which is available when you are experiencing this moment. So, when we stop adding layers of meaning to our moment to moment experience, something unexpected happens. We begin to feel more connected to the perception. This may sound paradoxical, but it is only because we are used to relating to life through the buffer of thought. And the modern contemplative science, especially studies in mindfulness and flow states, suggest that we feel most alive when we are not narrating every second but simply being. So this is referred to as Tao, that is the flow of energy, and also this state of being in Egyptian terminologies. There was a term called Ankh, 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 and there was a symbol as well, which simply meant life, a life which is a flow of the spirit. And here, spirit is basically that one, the one source manifesting, and it flows through everything. And we categorize it scientifically, we categorize the different elements and the animating force. If we come to Eastern tradition, we call it as the prana. So all of this would constitute just one flow called as Ankh, Ankh. So I make a mention of this in my first book as well. In this book too, we will go through it in the further chapters. So in these moments, a flower is no longer a flower as we know it. It becomes a vivid unfolding of color, form, and energy. And this also reminds me of the Buddha, because one of his disciples was sitting in front and he wanted to check or simply confirm that his disciple has realized and that he is awake. And we also might have heard of the story. So he takes a lotus and just he shows it to him. The disciple, he looks at the flower, he stares at it for some time deeply, and then he smiles. That's all, no words, nothing is needed. He would just observe the beauty. Beauty is basically there is no more filter. You are seeing the depth, the sharpness in creation. You are awake, you're simply present. The body is the instrument of the one and it experiences anything it is, in this case flower. So flower is no more a flower. What it means is it's no more just a label for you. There is no more memory of what flower is. All there is this moment and the manifestation, the physical manifestation of that. So in presence, intimacy arises not through knowing about something but through contact with what is. Human intelligence is multifaceted. There is the linear logical intelligence that plans and problem solves, and there is the perceptual crystal-like intelligence that simply sees without the interference, as we have mentioned. The latter does not create stories, it just witnesses. While both are vital, we rarely activate the latter consciously. The spiritual traditions of Advaita or Zen suggest this form of awareness is available always. Though hidden behind mental momentum, psychologically, this echoes the difference between top-down processing, which is concept-driven, and bottom-up processing, which is sensory-driven. So to experience without meaning is to allow bottom-up perception to lead for once, which feels less like effort and more like a surrender. So we go with the perception first, and then we may derive a logic out of it or we may not. Irrespective of what it is, there is always the foundational sensory experiences. In fact, the sciences, when it began, the primary motivation to investigate was the bottom up. The sensory perceptions were first, and then we try to make meaning out of it, or rather study the behavior, the causal link for that perception, how the experience is happening. So we should not forget this foundation on how we started this journey of exploring the nature of reality. So, no matter to what degree you're employing your logical mind, irrespective of that, there is always the primary sensory experience which we should come back more frequently. So, the mind seeks answers, often prematurely. It fears the unknown and it fills those unknown with a lot of theories, beliefs, and assumptions. But what if we did not rush to wrap the unknown in meaning? Mystics across cultures speak of the cloud of unknowing, a sacred space where silence teaches more than thought. Quantum physics also nudges us towards this mystery. Particles behave differently when observed, and outcome collapse only in awareness. So, such revelations are not calls to abandon reason but to complement it with reverence. So, the quantum physics part is still young, I would say, at this point, but the fact that somebody could recognize the importance of the observer in investigation of science is a vital step. Of course, we have still ways to go on integrating the consciousness aspect of the human and clearly understanding the difference between the animate and inanimate. What is the driving force that creates an animate form? The conscious being, the one which responds uniquely to the input more fast. Of course, even inanimate things respond, even rocks respond for the water falling on it for thousands of years and it changes the shape. So everything responds to the input. But the unique aspect of the biological creature is it is fast, it is quick, it is more insertion of consciousness in the elements is more in the metabolic, what we call the metabolism, that is the cellular organisms. So it is a gateway through which the consciousness truly and deeply starts looking at its own creation. So we have taken some time and henceforth evolution is there. There is no denial of evolution. Okay, so when we let go of the compulsive need to make sense, we do not become passive, rather we become more receptive. Living without attaching constant meaning does not strip us of our humanity. It reveals a deeper, less anxious version of it. Yes, the world of goals, identities, and narratives continues to exist, and we do not need to deny it because that is how the story is evolving. It is a growth in whatever direction, negative or positive, it is still a growth that is very much needed at an individual level and at the collective level for the human consciousness to organically evolve over time. But beneath that, there is an aliveness not dependent on purpose or context. It is the kind of knowing that does not insist on knowing specifically. In this space, joy is not a resultant, it is a presence. We become less interested in defining ourselves and more curious about being ourselves. So, this is not escapism, it is just waking up fully to life, unedited and not interpreting it. But you are completely alive and you are observing things. Alright, so in the next video, we will continue this chapter and intelligence of what? How the crystal works in understanding what is that which is I am observing. How does an intelligence navigate when there is brilliance, the natural brilliance is alive? How does it navigate in understanding what is the nature of the experience? Thank you.